Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. This is Coffee with CRGroup, Leading Business Budgeting Systems for 2018. My name is Thomas Ironstone, and I'm the Manager of Corporate Performance Management and Business Intelligence here at CRGroup. It's my pleasure to be here today with all of you to discuss ways to transform your business budgeting this year. I would also like to present to you our second host for today, Donna Powell Eddy. She's been a business solutions consultant at Corporate Renaissance Group for about 18 years now and specializes in costing, budgeting, and corporate performance management solutions. She's also the team lead for Rapid Start, one of our newest budgeting tools for SMS, which you'll see in a moment. For those of you who do not know Corporate Renaissance Group, we specialize in the recommendation, design, and implementation of core business systems. We are headquartered here in Ottawa, Ontario, and have been working since 1989 to help businesses of any size and any industry transform their performance and efficiencies. One of the most common challenges we see with new clients surrounding budgeting and forecasting and how to create a process and system that will help companies compete and grow. That is why we decided to host today's live event. We have scoured the globe for what we think are the top budgeting systems available depending on your company size and needs, and we'll present them here for you today so get a full picture of what's available to you. These systems have been tried, proven, and really we have one for really any size of company and for every type of need you could imagine from a budgeting perspective. So we'll leave here with a clear understanding of what system would best help your company and scale to suit your needs over time. So just a little bit of housekeeping. The recording will be sent out to you. So we're going to be recording the webinar today. It's going to be sent to all participants later in the week. We welcome your questions, so please type them into your GoToWebinar panel, and we'll do our best to answer all of the questions right at the end of the session. This event does also qualify for 1 professional development hour, and you'll be getting your certificate along with the video recording. And finally, it wouldn't be Coffee with CRGroup without the coffee, so please keep an eye out for your Starbucks gift card that will be sent out to you after today's event. So the agenda for today, first and foremost, we're going to be tackling budgeting and forecasting challenges. So we did our best to listen to the audience and the registrants of some challenges they're having, and we compiled some of those challenges. We didn't get everything, but we definitely tried, and we'll just briefly touch upon those. And then we'll be going into the actual solutions and tools that can help you. So we're going to be looking at what features to look for in a new budgeting system, what systems are out there, and how to choose the right one for your company. We're going to be reviewing our top 3 budgeting systems. And then finally, we're going to talk a little bit about change management, so the transition from spreadsheets. And then finally, we'll wrap up with the questions. So as I mentioned, use that GoToWebinar panel, put your questions in there, and we'll tackle them right at the end of the webinar. So the top 7 budgeting and forecasting challenges. So this is what we gathered from the group that's attending today. Again, we tried our best to get everything, but we didn't get everything. We got a sort of a decent representation of what's been shared. So budgeting and forecasting is a critical part of corporate performance management, and many organizations face tremendous difficulties with this process and wish to drive more value out of it. So you're not alone. We're going to look at some of these challenges, and I'll touch briefly upon some tips for overcoming them. And then when we get into the solution side, you'll see how some of those are actually addressed as well. So I'd say this is probably the biggest pain point. Most organizations have been and continue to use Excel for budgeting. And so with Excel, it's very manual. Preparing these budget workbooks every year can be a very time-consuming process. Obviously, the issues of broken links, making sure everything's connected, having to send it out by email, gathering everything, consolidating all the budget data, getting out the reports. The whole process can be very, very manual. So it doesn't really leave much time for analysis. So really the solution for this is getting an automated budgeting tool. It's sort of easy to say, but we'll talk upon some of the actual features and functionality that will layer on top of that, just as opposed to just automating your process, how you can drive more value out of it as well. But essentially you're freeing up a lot of time in this process by adopting a budgeting budgeting tool, an automated budgeting tool. Another key challenge is participants are unclear of the budgeting cycle details. So even though it happens every year, it's almost like you're reintroducing the whole organization to this process all over again, which can be headaches for both the finance team that's administering the budget and also the budget managers who are preparing it. And it's just like pulling teeth. And so a way you can kind of help that process is making the budget cycle a little bit more clear and transparent of what's required from them, key milestones and deadlines. And so to accomplish this, a lot of tools these days have workflow built in, so you can set it up, customize all the steps, assign dates, assign people, and people have a clear idea of what's expected from them and by when. Another issue is, and challenge is that contributors have trouble accessing the latest budgets and forecasts. So really the solution for this is twofold. One is making sure everything's up to date. So especially on the forecast side, so being able to, say, pull the actuals and be able to refresh your reports and get the latest forecast. The other aspect is actually accessing it. So whether most organizations are using Excel, typically it's either sent out by email or sitting somewhere on the network. It's not routinely updated. And sometimes if you're not on site, like say you're not actually physically in the office or connected to your VPN or whatever, just getting that information can be very painful. So the idea is most modern budgeting solutions give end users multiple ways of actually connecting to the budgeting platform. So this is whether by web, by a client installation, so something physically on their machine, through Microsoft Office, through their mobile device. So giving them multiple ways of accessing it, so no longer are people saying, I don't have access to it, or they're not up to speed on what's been happening. Another key challenge is preparing purely dollar-based budgets. So when you're preparing your budgets, really the budget managers, when they're thinking through their budgets for the year, say expenses or revenue, the idea here is that when they're just looking at dollars, it doesn't necessarily give them a lot of flexibility as far as preparing their budget and making it meaningful for themselves. The reality is a lot of these dollars are driven by units and rates. So for example, like number of transactions and cost per transaction, or number of units sold and different price lists. So you want to give them that flexibility as opposed to just having them key in numbers. Another issue is slow turnaround time for budget revisions. So as I kind of mentioned earlier, keeping the budget refreshed and up to date. A lot of the time when organizations are doing their annual budgeting process, the data and really the thought and everything that's gone into it gets out of date very fast because the world around us continues to change, more information comes into play. We need to be able to update that and adjust accordingly. So we want to be able to make it a little bit easier for folks to do budget revisions and update it on the fly. And so modern budgeting applications allow for that. So the idea is you have your different versioning processes that are set up within your budget model, so you can quickly spin up a new budget, update the outlook, and you have your new budget version to report on. Another key pain point that what we're hearing from the group is synchronization with the accounting system. So really that idea that we add new accounts, our trial balances come in, and the thought that things are just sort of out of sync. So when you're working in Excel, keeping the accounts up to date in Excel is a very manual process. Also refreshing it with actuals as well as an issue. So the idea here is that the idea is you want a system that can integrate with your accounting package to be able to refresh and update it accordingly. Finally, constantly recreating reports and presentations when data and revisions are made. Most modern accounting packages have automated reporting built in, so when you update actuals or budgets, you don't have to recreate the report. Everything just gets refreshed for you. All right, so now into more of the meat of the webinar today. So that here we're going to be focusing on the key features that you should be looking for in a new budgeting system. So how do you find what's right for your company? And we're going to be going through some of those key features and the value it can provide to you. So when we think of features to look for, every day we speak to different companies that are looking to get started with a new budgeting system. There's certainly many options available, and what is right for your needs now, and also thinking in the future and your long-term success, you need to think about those features as well. So when you're thinking of return on investment, don't just think of today, think about tomorrow. So luckily, we have a lot of experience evaluating almost every budgeting system out there. And from our experience, here are some key features that you should make sure your new budgeting system has. I'm going to list these out for you and also explain why they're essential and what trouble you could end up facing if your chosen budgeting solution is lacking this key functionality. One is source data integration. As I mentioned in the challenges, you need to make sure that your system can actually tap into, say, your accounting package or any other key data inputs that you require for budgeting and reporting. If you don't have this and it's very manual, things can come out of date, get out of date very fast, things are out of sync, and then you're reporting on out-of-date information. Another key feature is what-if analysis and reforecasting. This is becoming more of a standard in the budgeting tool environment. So the idea is to be able to run what-if scenarios and be able to do reforecasting, because it needs to be a dynamic analytical tool for you, not just a tool to really just consolidate your annual budget. Top-down budget entry, this feature definitely provides a lot of value at the management level. So the idea is that, say, you're starting with their top-level targets, they get rolled down to the divisional managers, budget managers, they prepare the more detailed view, it gets rolled back up to management, and then they can make their top-down adjustments. This feature is definitely becoming very important to management teams, and that functionality derives a lot of value to be able to make and update key assumptions. Multi-company, multi-currency. This is more for organizations that are working, say, cross borders, and also maybe a potential a conglomerate or a consolidation of multiple companies. You want to make sure that as you grow, your tool can accommodate that growth. So growth in many cases for organization could be through acquisitions of companies, working in new markets. You want to make sure that you have the flexibility, if ever required, to be able to open and unlock the ability to use different currencies and add more companies. Business rule driver-based modeling. So as I mentioned before, not just dollars, you need the key underlying drivers to prepare the budget so you can play with those assumptions and variables to see what the impact on your budget is going to be. This is definitely becoming more of an industry standard as well. Template designer functionality, so not just necessarily being fit into a box. As you grow and change, you want the ability to change and update those templates and adjust accordingly. The next layer here is around, say, process and controls, access controls. So security, you don't want a tool that's just wide open. You want it to be able to lock specific things down, like payroll budgets. So that's definitely a key standard that you should be looking for. Customizable workflow. So the idea is, as budgets are submitted and reviewed, you want to be able to have it fit your company as opposed to forcing your company into a workflow process. So customizable workflow is definitely a key feature that you should be looking for. Automated financial statements, the key reports that you're building every month, quarter, year, get a tool that can help you automate that, because as you pull in your actuals, you have your budgets, you shouldn't have to be doing this manually all the time. The tool really should be doing that for you. You should be spending the time you need on the analysis and not having to spend so much time preparing those reports manually. The tool can really do that for you. Again, self-service analysis reporting for business users, this is definitely key. So users want more power, you got to put it in their hands. They want to ask questions and answer them. Have a tool that allows them to do that. Exception reporting and alerts. So the idea of getting pulled into the tool, an alert happens. Say a threshold is exceeded, say on the budget, you want to make sure that it pulls you, not having to always log in and check. Have it make it a little bit more dynamic. Data visualization and dashboards. So it shouldn't, as I said before, just be a tool to store your budget data, make it analytical, get some dashboards, track key performance indicators, make it visual, pull data in from other systems. This is definitely becoming, again, more of an industry standard. And this finally, this top layer here, so accessibility. we're a very mobile society, so folks need to be able to access, say, their budget data wherever they are, their financial reports, key operational reports. So have it on their mobile device to be able to access that. That's just something really standard these days. Broadcasting, so they'd be able to broadcast out reports to folks, say by email on a scheduled basis. Collaboration, so not just a centralized, say, budget model where it's all done in finance. You want to collaborate with folks amongst the different departments or companies or divisions. Make sure the tool allows for multi-user, multi-contributors. And finally, scalability. As you grow, you want to make sure that the tool is scalable. It's not going to, you're not going to be stuck in a platform that in a couple of years you have to change it as you grow. Definitely think for the future. All right, so now we're going to go through some of these key features in a little bit more detail and some key questions. So when you're actually choosing your budgeting solution, what questions should you be asking yourself? So a key piece about this is start by establishing your requirements, so both business and technical, for now and in the future. So this will create the blueprint for your company's ideal budgeting system. So we're going to take you through some of those things you should consider when choosing a budgeting solution. So we're going to be going through 8 questions to help define your requirements. So we have come up with 8 questions for you to answer. So you can take these away and it'll help you define your company's requirements. And as I mentioned before, this is recorded, so you'll be able to come back and look at this, but definitely read through these. There are definitely some things you should be considering and having your folks answer internally before you hit the street and start looking for tools. So we're going to go through these, and you can also actually go to crgroup.com/budgeting-needs, so crgroup.com/budgeting-needs to see those questions as well. So the first question, define your current budgeting and planning process. So you want to make sure that you map out all your current budgeting and planning processes, noting any cycles and stages, approvals, and people. So having that thought through first before going out, because you want to make sure it fits your organization and your business processes. So that is very key. And this will help create a high-level view of the process and people involved and what can actually be optimized. The next item is note any and all pain points or missed opportunities. So definitely go through, make a list of all the bottlenecks, pain points, and missed opportunities for all stakeholders that are involved in the budgeting process. So this could be the budget managers and management. It's getting everyone involved. So like whether it's administrators, the finance team, the board of directors, you want to make sure that you capture everyone in this process, because as you go through, you pick a tool, say you're doing an isolation of everyone else, then you're going to be getting questions and asking people to do things that say the tool can't do. So you want to make sure you're capturing everyone's voice when making that decision. Another thing here is to separate your pain points into wants and needs. So take your list of pain points and your missed opportunities and separate out the critical versus the nice to resolve. Because definitely as we think through these items, there's some things that are definitely more for the future we want to capture, but sometimes don't let the small items hold up getting a tool that can drive more value. Don't get stuck on the small items. So think of the things that'll add most value to resolve now, and then try narrowing it down to your top 5 needs. So it's going to help sort out your wants and your needs and itemize based on priority. Key features. So what are the key features that you need? So what does your organization need? And the sophistication of each of those features. So the level of degree of how advanced those items are, how advanced the functionality is. So make a list of all your key features you need in a budgeting solution and the level of flexibility / sophistication you need for each. So for example, you might need over 500 accounts with the ability to scale up to 2,000. Just an example. Advanced approval and routing. Basic exception reporting. So think through all those things that you need to operate as a business that would help drive more value, create efficiencies, and definitely help improve performance for the finance team, but also the business side of your organization. So define capacity. What best describes how you would like to get started? So if you think of adopting a new solution, sort of think how you'd like to go into the implementation. So if you think through it, some things to consider. I would like to use pre-built templates to help guide me through the setup the new budgeting process. So that might be for some organizations, they're just looking for pre-built templates and they want to use those. They might not have a budgeting structure that they're too stuck to. Another one is I would like my current budgeting and planning forms to translate into the software. So this is sort of the other view. So where you have your existing workbooks and you want to translate that into a tool, layer on some additional functionality and efficiencies, but the idea is you've already thought through how you're doing your planning and budgeting and you want to stick with that. So you might need a tool that's a little bit more flexible and configurable to fit that. Next, I would like to see what's possible and build a plan from there. So maybe starting like a blank slate or maybe what you have and seeing how you can change it to make it better. I would like to know what similar companies have done and then build a plan from there. So this is partially with the tool, partially with, say, a firm like ours where we're working with a firm that is in multiple industries, so that specializing, understand what the industries are doing out there for best practices, get some input to see what's out there. So a firm like us can actually help out that process. I have a very detailed, another item here, I have a very detailed set of requirements that I need to follow in building out our company's budgeting system. So you might have already gone through, you might have already created the design, and you just want to translate that into the tool. Or potentially none of the above, and you just need consultation, and we can actually help with that as well. Next, when we be looking to deploy a new solution and what length of implementation is realistic for you. So given your current cycle, what we do want to deploy a new system, who would be involved in the rollout, what is their capacity. This is going to help you work backwards and determine what length of implementation and plan and what communications required and training would be needed for your organization. So definitely thinking of change management as well. On the technical side, what are the key requirements, whether you're going on-premise or in the cloud? Is it hosted in Canada, the US, elsewhere in the world? These are definitely key things that you should be considering. It's more important for some organizations over others, but make sure IT is involved to some degree and make sure that you're following your company's policies and procedures around this. They definitely should be captured when evaluating your solutions. Next and finally is integration. What other business systems or data sources would you need to be integrated? So list of all current and future business systems and data sources that might be needed to be integrated with. So your accounting system, data warehouses, Excel, databases, HRIS. So define these systems and how they should be talking to each other and how often they should be refreshed in your tool. So now you have your list of requirements. You can get started, get out there, start looking at the tools, seeing which one fits your needs. So you can use the answer to these questions to help you through that process. So as I mentioned, go to crgroup.com/budgeting-needs and you can actually answer those questions yourself and help you along that process. So next, we're going to actually look at leading business budgeting and forecasting systems that we have found. So this is, we've put a lot of effort into finding these solutions. They fit different sizes of companies and different needs. The first is Rapid Start. So might be smaller deployments, and for each of these, we're going to be going through a little bit more detail. But there's varying functionality, the various size of scale that should be considered when looking at each of these. So the first one's Rapid Start. The next one's Board. So it's more of a modeling tool. It has all-in-one BI and corporate performance management. Can be deployed for businesses of varying sizes. So lots of flexibility. Another key tool that we've identified as a leading budgeting and forecasting tool. And Adaptive Insights. So this is a leader in CPM solutions in the cloud. Can be deployed for medium to large size. So again, built from the cloud. It's really a cloud-driven tool. So all the interface functionality has been thought through when you're interacting on the browser. So it's a very powerful tool and very nice looking front end as well. So if we're thinking of key features, just a quick comparison before we dive in. All of the tools to some degree, key things that you should have and consider. Data integration, be able to do what-if analysis and forecasting, collaboration, setting up business rules, drill down and drill through to the data, self-service analysis and reporting, automating your financial statements, process flow and control, so security, workflow, so whether it's pre-built or customizable, it varies amongst the products as you see. being able to produce dashboards, data visualization, collaboration capabilities, so across the board, accessibility, so on mobile or on the go, as you'll see, Rapid Start's browser, board adaptive browser and mobile, broadcasting, so emailing reports, for example. So board and adaptive have that. Rapid Start is more designed for small deployments, a structured process, so not necessarily required for all companies. Whether there's limit on number of accounts, so Rapid Start, for example, is 300, where board and adaptive are unlimited. A limit on the number of projects, 2 for Rapid Start, no limit board and adaptive. So for modeling, custom calculations, top-down budgeting, template development, predictive analytics, again, Rapid Start's meant to be a structured tool for SMEs, so it's not designed for some of the flash, but more quick deployment and definitely cost-effective, whereas board and adaptive have this additional functionality, potentially for larger enterprises that are looking to grow and do maybe a little bit more outside of budgeting. Deployment options, really cloud, and then boards both cloud and on-premise, and then the pricing you'll see there as well, and some of this relates to functionality and what the target audience is, but you'll see there's different ranges, and then self-service setup. Rapid Start's designed potentially for you to get set up and going on your own, whereas say board adaptive require a little bit of guidance and consultation to make sure that the board is effectively implemented to meet your needs. So that being said, we're going to start taking a look at our solutions. We're going to start with Rapid Start, look at Adaptive Insights, and then board. So I'm going to hand it over to Donna Powell Eddy. She's going to be tackling Rapid Start and Adaptive Insights.
Thanks, Tom. Can you, hopefully you can hear me okay. So I'm first going to talk about Rapid Start, and then I'm going to talk about Adaptive Insights. So Rapid Start really is the simplest tool, I'll say, and you'll see, or you'll notice from Tom's previous slide about the price points, that it is a low-cost tool. It's very affordable, and yet it's very powerful. So you're going to see there's a features list, which lists, all of the things you can do with it, and you get a lot of bang for your buck. So we're very excited. We've dealt with a lot of companies in this space over the last 18 years or so, and we found this tool a couple of years ago. It was developed by a company called MaxiPlan, and they are really headquartered and based in Singapore. They have offices in Asia, and that's where most of their client base is. So we're very excited to introduce this tool to the North American market. So what is it? Well, it's really a tool, it's in the cloud, entirely in the cloud, that allows you to create a budget or, a planning and forecasting scenario with integrated financial statements, including your profit and loss statement, your balance sheet, your cash flow, out of the box and from the bottom up. And what we mean is that, the details are entered into the supporting modules, and then the balance sheet, cash flow, and P&L are updated automatically based on the inputs that your users do. So in terms of the actual modules that are supported with Rapid Start, you have a revenue module, you have an expense module, you have a payroll module, you have a CapEx module, there's a financing module, and then you have the ability as well for revenues and expenses to do below the line budgeting. So what this means is, if we think of general expense budgeting at the account level, what we can actually do is add detailed lines underneath a specific account, such as travel, and start to justify the budget for travel for a given department based on the number of trips, as an example. And you can create a line item for each trip with a description and an amount, and go from there. So it allows you to build the budget from the bottom up, and then with the click of a button, all of the calculations are done and the financial statements are updated. So I'll talk about each of those individually once we get into the product demonstration itself, because it'll be a little bit more valuable for you there. So in terms of what the price point is, we've broken the price down into two packages, I'll say. One is the product package and one is the service package. So there is a starter license package, which includes one sort of power user, administrator, and 5 standard users with shared cloud hosting and, of course, the technical support. And this starts at $4,095 Canadian for a 12-year subscription. So very, very affordable. And then the second piece, which is independent from the product, is a service package. And so for $3,900 Canadian, which amounts to about 2 days worth of effort or so, you will have access to a CRG consultant who will help you set up and configure the model and provide you with training to make sure that you're going to get the most out of the product. So very, very nice entry point. And we found that it's very applicable to about 90% of the small businesses or simple medium-sized businesses that are out there. So what's included with functionality? You're going to get this this slide deck, so I'm not going to go into each and every item. But what I did want to point out is that you do get a ton of functionality at a low price point. You get multi-currency, you get all your different modules, you have your automated reports, you can do custom reporting, there's a dashboard visualization. So it really, really is a nice entry point for somebody looking to step up from their Excel in terms of a budgeting and software planning solution. So with that, what we'll do is we'll actually go and we'll take a look at the software itself. So Thomas is going to just make me presenter, and then I will be able to share my screen and show you the tool itself. Okay, so what we're looking at, when you log into Rapid Start, you are going to see the data visualization page. And it's quite nice, and this is a standard page that's automatically set up and created based on the configurations that we do. We're looking at a company called ABC Group, and this company has 3 particular divisions. We're looking at a certain period. And what you can actually do on this dashboard page is you can drill down into any of the items and you can take a look at the underlying data behind it. You can change your views to a grid view. You can very easily change your reporting parameters and filters and drill down to the detail that you want. With a click of a button, you can export it to Excel. Nice functionality, very, very nice. And this is almost the output of the budgeting thing. So let's talk more about the inputs for a moment. So the first piece that we were talking about was the revenue module. And there's basically 3 types of revenue that you can have. One is a general revenue, and this is where you're actually budgeting at the account level. And then you can add the below the line detail. So if we take a look at that and say, what does that look like? Well, you know, any of these yellow boxes are data entry screens, so you can see that I've got, I'm at the company as a whole, and I'm in my particular department called sales, and I can drill down and look at the sales. And because sales is the only cost center or division that we've targeted or tagged as a revenue generating cost center, it's the only one available on this list. So only sales is responsible, but you can see that we can start to add below the line detail by simply clicking and adding in a detailed level, and we can enter in the details and go from there. And what they've actually done is they have an input helper as well that allows you to very quickly get data in there. You can repeat data monthly, you can do some growth, you can base it on last year's actuals. So lots of nice little shortcuts to get your data in there and see what you're looking at. So that's your general input model. The second type of revenue that we have is a product revenue, and this is where we have a combination of a product and a customer, and we create a price book for the product prices and the associated cost of goods sold. So then as you're going down and budgeting for a particular product and customer mix, you can start to enter into the details at that level. So all you would need to do is enter into your volumes, and all of the rest would be automatically calculated out. Again, very, very nice for a company that's selling products and customers. And then the third type of revenue they have is what we call a service revenue. So this is where you actually think of a consulting company such as ourselves that has consultants who are billable perhaps at different rates. Senior consultants might be billable at a rate that is higher than a junior consultant. So you can create rates by resource type, and then you can estimate the number of billable hours in a period, and it's going to calculate those service revenues. And when you enter that data and it all gets rendered, you'll be able to see in the revenue summary all of it put together, and you can of course see that reflected in your financial statements as well. The second item we have are expenses, and this is again just basically general account expense entry with below the line detail, so nothing fancy there, but you know, equally applicable. Now what we're not trying to do is duplicate, you know, all of the complex spreadsheets that you might have to come up with one number in a budget. You can still keep those, but the intent here is to say for a given account, for a given department, for a given month, what is the budget? And you can build it from the bottom up. We'll talk about payroll in a moment because we have a Canadian payroll example set up. For asset planning, what you can do is you can set up asset classes with depreciation methods, so straight line or declining balance by asset class type, and then as you go through and add in new purchases, it's going to calculate the depreciation and associated accumulated depreciation and hit your financial statements in terms of your assets on your balance sheet, your depreciation expense, etc. So quite nice. In terms of financing, which is another large part of the budget, you have the ability to create loans as an example, and you can have them as interest only or interest in principal. And then we have some nice reports in here that can actually show you the loan schedules, and you will see, you know, if I have an interest only payment, my principal remains outstanding for the life of the loan, but if I have a declining balance, or, you know, interest plus principal, I'll call it, you can see that my loan balance declines as I go, you know, over the life of the loan. So quite nice. You have the ability to create and add drivers, which are, you know, basically balance sheet drivers, exchange rate, because you do have the ability for multi-currency here, payroll drivers, asset drivers. So these are all set up and help to flow through. So once you get your data in, then you have your out-of-the-box reports that come canned with the software itself. So again, we looked at the loan schedule. You can look at a profit and loss schedule. You have the ability to, you know, format them a little bit in terms of adding rows and headers and subtotals, etc. And then, of course, you can export these to Excel and do what you need to do. And these are on top of the existing dashboards that we saw earlier. And I'm just going to show you the payroll because this makes up a very large part of most small and medium-sized companies' budgets, of course, probably be about 80% of the cost. So in terms of the payroll, what we've done is we've set up payroll drivers and we've set up CPP rates and maxes and EI rates and maxes, and then what you do for a company as a whole is you actually go in and you can budget at the employee level to say these employees belong to this specific division and they're located here, and all of those calculations in terms of the salaries and benefits are actually going to be flowing through there, which is quite nice. And we also have a US payroll one. So I just wanted to hit on the main points. There's a wizard that helps you get this set up very quickly, and that's where we come in and help you. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump back to the PowerPoint to talk about adaptive insights. Okay, so let's talk about adaptive insights now. And I know we're running a little bit of time, so we're not going to go into it in too much detail, but basically what is adaptive insights? Well, they are an in the cloud only budgeting and planning and CPM tool. They have had phenomenal growth in terms of number of customers and sales and number of partners and their reach across the globe. They've been very, very successful, and they've been a market leader, you know, in the Gartner Quadrant in this cloud space and CPM and BI for many, many years. And we've been partnered with them, you know, coming up on 5 years now. So what is adaptive insights? Well, it's a suite of products, and at the core is planning, but there's planning, discovery, consolidation, reporting, and integration are the main products. So we'll talk about each of those in a little bit more detail before we get into the product itself. So in terms of adaptive integration, what this integration does is it allows you to connect automatically your adaptive planning instance with your ERP system. So these are examples: NetSuite, Sage, Dynamics GP, etc. So what it does is it allows you to pull in your actual data. You keep your budgeting and planning data in adaptive, and then all of a sudden, because the data, you know, there's one central version of the truth, you can do your reporting and your variance analysis and all those neat things right in adaptive itself. Now, you don't have to integrate just financial data, so you can create all sorts of non-financial data that can be used for metrics and KPI calculations, and you can pull those into adaptive. So you can have multiple integration sources as well. The core to the adaptive suite is adaptive planning, and what this does is it's very similar to what we just saw in Rapid Start. Is that it's module based, or well, I'll call it template based in this case, but basically you can create templates for all of your various expense and revenue items such as personnel, travel, capital, and these all again automatically flow into your financial statements, your balance sheets, your cash flows, etc. So this is the key and the core to the adaptive planning suite, and you basically can't do anything else, or to the adaptive planning, yeah, the adaptive insight suite. You can't do anything else without adaptive planning, so this is core. Next up is adaptive discovery, and this is an add-on module that they added on in recent years, and they just last year released a new version of this, and it's quite phenomenal with the graphics that it has. But it's a visualization and analysis tool that sits on top of your adaptive planning module, and it allows you to do data analytics and has all sorts of neat gauges and waterfall charts, and you can do trend analysis and look at exceptions and have your KPIs and stuff. And you can create different dashboards and views, so they are user specific, so depending on the audience, you know, the executives can have a view that is different from the operational managers, etc. The next module is adaptive consolidation, and this allows you to basically create within adaptive itself your consolidation process in terms of creating your intercompany relationships, your entries, your reclassifications. It takes into account ownership and all of that, and you can actually create journal entries for these. So it's it covers the entire close to disclose process of the consolidation feature, and it's a nice feature to have if it's something that's applicable to your organization. Not usually for small and medium-sized organizations, but the larger you get, it certainly can accommodate that very, very nicely. And then the last module that we have is adaptive reporting. And this is built in, and it comes with the adaptive planning instance, but it allows you to create reports and share these reports, and they can be, you know, for all sorts of different audiences. They could be board of director reports, management reports. You can create transaction reports. You can do ad hoc reporting, and it's almost very, very similar to the look and feel of a pivot table when you're in adaptive planning itself. So you'll get an idea of that when we look in there. On top of those reports, there's actually another module called Adaptive Office Connect, and this actually allows you to connect Excel, Microsoft Excel, to your adaptive planning instance and your adaptive planning database. And then what you can do is you can connect your existing reports to your adaptive planning instance so that they're automatically refreshed. And we all know that a lot of people are very, very tied to Excel. They have some beautiful reports and report packs that they've created. So we're not, you know, suggesting that you get rid of those. If you love them and they work for you, what we can do is use those and automatically link them so that they'll be refreshed on a monthly basis going forward. So very, very nice. And along with the Excel link, we have links to Word and PowerPoint. So it's quite nice in terms of the formatting that's available there. Finally, adaptive is available on the on mobile applications such as your iPads and your webs. So very, very nice. So the three main reasons before we get into the demo itself are, number one, it's fast, it's easy to use. You'll see it has a very, very similar look and feel to Excel, and it is affordable if you use a phased implementation approach. So because it's module based, you could decide, okay, for phase one, I'm just going to tackle planning, and then I can add on my, you know, data visualizations afterward and stuff. So that is an approach a lot of clients take there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the product itself now. We're going to go ahead and take a look at Adaptive Insights. So what you're seeing here when you log in, everything that you see in Adaptive Insights is security based. So right now I'm logged in and I'm going to see everything because I'm an administrator here. But if I'm restricted to a certain area of the org structure or certain accounts, those restrictions will apply when I'm logging into this instance. So this is an example of the process tracker that's in Adaptive. And what it does is it allows you to create tasks and assign those tasks to processes. And you can very, very quickly see at a glance where things are at, what's on time, what's running late, what's in progress, what's been completed, etc. And these are assigned to specific individuals. So it's a nice way to, kind of follow your month-end process and go from there. But the bulk of time that people are going to spend in Adaptive Insights, and this is the planning pieces, are going to be on the sheets. So these are almost like what we'll call the templates. So, we've got an organization that's structured, that's set up. I'm in Sales North at this point, so I can see I've got a particular expense sheet set up. And when I log into this expense sheet, you're going to see it's got a very, very similar look and feel to Excel, where we have, rows and columns with months, and we have data that's entered. Anything gray is locked down, it's read-only, and I can't do data entry. And you can see by the little triangle, that means there's a formula in there. And if I click on the box, I'll see the formula at the top. For any cells that are white, I can actually do a data entry, and it's got the same, sort of advanced input functionality where you can start to copy data across and, where do I want it to stop, how do I want to copy it, etc. So it's meant to get the data in there very, very quickly. The nice thing with this is that if I render a change, it's highlighted in blue, and I go ahead and save it, it is automatically and instantly updated in all of my reports, all of my financial statements, everywhere. So there's always one version of the truth that people are looking at, which is quite nice. And it encourages collaboration as different individuals are logged into the system. Everybody's looking at the one version of truth. So you never get this data integrity error. And the nice thing with the formulas is that you can, lock these down and allow for consistency across your different divisions or organizations to say, look, we want everybody to be budgeting salaries and benefits the same way. So that's going to be administered by our HR, and we're going to lock it down, and you don't have to worry about the calculations behind that. And just like we saw in adaptive, there's different sheets to handle different things. So we've got a personnel sheet as an example where we would start to build up our personnel budget, by creating line items and employees. And the nice thing with this is that you can actually start to, allocate individuals across organizations as well. So say Mr. William Clark has a home base of Sales North, but he's actually doing some work for other divisions or levels within the org structure. You can tag his costs, and if you so choose, you can allocate those costs to the other divisions as well. So quite nice. And as you add in employees, all of their salaries and benefits and all of that are going to be automatically calculated based on the inputs that you've done and the calculations that are going on behind the ground. So it's quite nice. We've got the discovery piece, which is the data visualization. So once you, have your model set up and running, you can have this as an add-on module. I mentioned that before. And it's basically the data visualization that you can customize and create based on your own needs. It's just going to take a moment to render here. I think it's a popular time for people to be budgeting in adaptive. It takes a little bit longer when people are online. So we've got different dashboards, different samples, and they can be entirely customized. And then you still have the drill down capability and can drill down into whatever level of detail that you want as you're going throughout the organization. And the last thing that I want to show you is the reports, and this reporting piece comes with adaptive planning itself. So you can create personal reports and you can create shared reports, and then you can certainly go from there. So if I wanted to look at a current month variance analysis report, I would just pull that up. This is automatically going to be updated and refreshed, but I can go ahead and I can change my selections. I can do conditional formatting if I so choose and want to do that. So very, very quickly at a glance, I can see where things are at, where's a flag. I can start to drill down and look at the underlying detail and see what's driving those costs. And I have, the ability to explore cells and try and find out the reasons for certain things. So it's very, very nice functionality. It's very, very easy to use. People love it because it's close to Excel, and it certainly encourages collaboration because there's one version of the truth, and everybody logs in almost on demand to take a look at their budgets and their reporting and those sorts of things. And I know we're getting close to time, so I'm going to hand it back to Thomas, and he'll talk about board. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Donna. The next thing that we're going to be tackling now is board. So board is an all-in-one corporate performance management and business intelligence solution. So really what this means is that you get dashboarding, you get planning, budgeting, and forecasting. You get financial consolidation, strategic management, analysis, simulation, reporting, data exploration, all in one tool. Is not module-based. And so some key functionality of board is, one is accessibility. So you can access this by a client install. You can access it over the web in the cloud. It has Microsoft Office integration, so that's Word, PowerPoint, and Excel, and of course through your mobile device as well. With Board, what you'll see and how it differs from other solutions is that it's entirely configurable. So whether it's your business process design, your calculations, your templates, even the front end and navigation is entirely configurable and controlled by the company itself. You're not force fit into any template structure. While there are templates that can be shared, you're not force fit into a structure. And Board itself is very rich in graphics. The tool itself was developed in Switzerland by Board International, and you'll see from a very European style that the graphics and navigation of it is very, very rich and very pleasing to look at. So, for example, workflow, you can design everything, the navigation, the look, the feel, the steps, it's all entirely configurable. A key thing as well is with the other platforms is the driver-based planning. So making sure that you have the ability to set up all your key drivers and what's going to impact your budgets. You can set all that up, flex the results, and see what the impact is on the budget. In addition to storing, say, numerical data, Board can also store text. It can store documents, so Excel, PowerPoint, PDFs. If you want to attach a document to pretty much anything, Board allows you that flexibility. You can even attach images as well. Ability to quickly reforecast, so Board can import your actuals and do a reforecast on the fly. In addition to just budgeting, Board has the ability to automate your balance sheet, income statement, and cash flow, so pulling in your actuals chart of accounts, and you can serve up-to-date reports on the fly as opposed to having to produce those manually. What's kind of cool as well is that Board can deliver presentation style reports in different formats, so to different containers. So an example of this is briefing books. So you can have an interactive flip book with all your charts, your tables, all drill down and filtering functionality. In addition to that, you can build out different charts, KPIs, dashboards, all drag and drop. It's designed for business users, so you don't have to have an IT background to do this. And to take it a step further, Board has a powerful predictive analytics engine. So you can use different statistical and data mining techniques to use your historical data and make predictions about what could happen in the future. So that being said, let's take a look. So right here, we have the Board application. So as I mentioned, Board is entirely configurable from everything from the navigation to the front end look and feel. It's all drag and drop, click and point. Really, you don't have to be, like I said, an IT, have IT background to do this. Folks with business or finance knowledge that have comfortable in Excel can design their models, their navigation, the look and feel. You have an excellent toolkit in Board that can deliver that. So we'll go through the budgeting side quickly, just in interest of time. You'll see here, this is just one example of the look and feel of what a budget model could look like. You could have your workflow, say as your landing page, navigate to different templates, see the progress monitor. You can set up all different types of views of your budget model. And so say by clicking on this link, it'll bring me to, say, the target budget set by senior management. So you can come in here, input your information, and you can save it. It writes back to the database. You have the ability to export a template to Excel if you want to. You don't have to work directly in the web or in the client. You can export it to Excel. You can take your work offline if need be, and it takes the same structure as you'll see. You can update your information. So for example, make this 100,000. Connect securely to the database. Say if you're on the plane, you finally land, you connect, you save your information. You go back to Board, and as soon as you get back in, you'll see that it's refreshed. And so you have the ability to integrate with Excel in that way, and you can go back and forth if required, or you can say, oh, it's directly in the platform. So that's one example. Say we're setting the high-level targets. The next level down, those high levels, this is the example of top-level budgeting. So it takes those targets, it pushes it down to, say, a detailed level. So in this example, by division and product, and by, say, sales rep, for example. And those sales reps can take those targets and they can update it at a detailed level. You have a variety of different ways you can input the data, so copy across. You can do top-down adjustments, so say 74,000, say you want to up it to 75,000, and it breaks it back accordingly. So lots of great data entry functionality, very rich in visuals. The next piece here, say as you go through your budget, again, you have full revenue, expense, payroll, project, all the types of budgeting you can imagine you can do inside this platform. So just one example here, and say you complete all of your budgets. You can have a summary view of your budget and say, I'm Brian, I submit my budget. And then as we go through, say, to our workflow monitor, say my manager who oversees, say, my VP, for example, will see all the different departments that are in progress are submitted. They can go through, they can approve or reject, for example, lock down the budget, and then you can even set up broadcasts, say, by email, where they can get an alert and then their final reporting. And then, again, if we think through the budget cycle, it goes, say, from targets down to the managers and the back up to maybe senior management. You can set up different ways to do top-down adjustments. It could be percentage-wise by drivers, and management can come in and they might say, overall, we expect 3% growth. We might say, for certain areas where there look like there's some issues, say 181% growth is a little too high. Let's say this should be just 100%. They can come in, save that, and it actually does a top-down adjustment to the budget. And then, of course, get your budgeting and reporting. So very rich visual content. You'll see here different layouts, reports, very graphical intensive, and this is really what, say, senior management pays for, is to get the rich visuals. All right, and then quickly here, you'll see dashboarding in BI. Board goes beyond just budgeting and planning. It is a modeling tool, so you can get rich, as beyond just budgeting and planning. You can get rich visuals. You can get all your financial statements, and you can do much more. So even strategy maps, balance scorecards, project reporting, anything you can imagine. All right, so again, interest the time. That's board. And I'm sure as been seeing throughout the webinar, and Natalie's been posting some key points as far as if you want to take a deep dive in any of the products, you can connect with us and we can do that. So for any of those solutions that we just talked about. So finally, just to wrap up here, the change management. So what's next? After you pick your solution, how does the transition from spreadsheets to, let's say, the modern age with one of these advanced budgeting and planning platforms, what do you have to think from a people perspective? So determine the timelines and make a plan. So planning who, when, and how. So make sure you have the key requirements and definitions in place. System administrator training. So you have to have your center of excellence, making sure that you have someone internally that can support these new tools. Testing configuration key before you go live, make sure everything works. You might have different logic change that you might want to set up, and you want to make sure everything's flowing very smoothly before it gets in the hands of the end users. Project planning, also very key. The rollout, who, when, and how. User communication training, have that set up, transparent to the folks that are going to be impacted by this. Set expectations, making sure that what they can expect and when. And also support from the top, have a champion. You don't just throw tools at folks. You want to make sure that they understand the importance of it and that you're getting back supporting it from a senior management level. Ongoing maintenance, again, who, when, and how. Reporting and monitoring, making sure everything's updated and keeping track of ongoing maintenance. Accountability and expectations. So if something happens, who to get in touch with. System changes, communicating that to folks, and obviously technical upkeep. So if it's on-premise, making sure everything's in place, upgrades and that. If it's in the cloud, not to worry so much about that. All right, finally, questions. See here, one came in a little bit earlier. It's related to Rapid Start. So I'm going to toss this over to Donna. I'll read the question first. The question is, in general, for revenue and expense input screens, does Rapid Start allow you to budget by multiple dimensions? Example, department and project.
Thanks, Tom. It does allow you to budget by department, but not by project. So you can't add additional dimensions. The real, rows and columns when you're budgeting your revenues or expenses are your organization hierarchy, so your departments, and then your accounts. So it doesn't allow for that third dimension to budget by project. Thank you.
All right, and just to elaborate that on a bit, as we mentioned, there's 3 solutions that we talked about. So obviously they're targeted for different segments. So Rapid Start is an out-of-the-box tool designed to get you up and running very quickly on some very specific types of templates and setups. If you require something a little bit beyond that as far as more configuration, there's different options that we discussed that you can look at. So for example, Adaptive Insights or Board could allow for more multidimensional modeling and budgeting and planning. Another question here okay, so this is related to accounting systems. For the 3 tools, can you connect to any accounting package? So I can sort of tackle this. So for Rapid Start, it's designed for, you can upload your data, for one example, upload your data into the model through template upload, or you can, there's integrations that are set up for Dynamics GP and for X1E1. So there's another one, but we can provide you more information if it's specific that if you want to look into. For QuickBooks, that was it. And for Board and Adaptive, it's really almost accounting system agnostic. So virtually all really used and supported accounting packages out there, both Adaptive and Board can connect to it and get the data. Different methods of getting there, but yes, they can tap into it and get it. And for those as well, you're not necessarily limited to just your accounting packages. If there's other data sources you need to tap into, you have the ability to get there again with Board and Adaptive as well. Okay, here's a question about implementation time frame. How long does it typically take to implement these solutions? This is a great question. So it really depends on a number of factors. 1, complexity in the model. 2, the support and available resources from the company side as well. So when you're adopting a new solution, again, we talked about champions. We need someone on the company side to adopt the solution and make sure it's rolled out effectively, and we can help support that. But definitely the support that's given from the organization is key, but definitely complexity of the model is always the key time frame. So if there's specific questions on that, it could be anywhere from, like we talked about, Rapid Start can be deployed very quickly because it's really a structured setup already, so you can get up and running fairly quickly. For Board and Adaptive, this could be a little bit more of a longer time frame just because there's, say, scoping, making sure the requirements are there, understanding how you need the tool to be set up. And then obviously going through all the process of building, testing, and training. So that could be anywhere from, say, 5 weeks to a few months. So it really varies, and definitely suggest reaching out if you have specific questions around that. All right, so that is it. That's all our questions for today. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. We hope that this was definitely educational, a little bit fun as well. So thank you for joining. You can contact us for a free financial planning and analysis assessment, or do a deeper dive demo into any of the solutions you saw today. You can reach out to me, Thomas Ironstone, tironstone@crgroup.com, 1-800-576-6215, extension 315. And you can also complete a 5-minute requirement survey that will be sent out. It's located at crgroup.com/budgeting-needs. Thank you so much, and hope to hear from you soon.